right, y'all. Here I am again on another site of our Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Trail. This spot here, located at 5655 South University, is the University Church, Christian Church of Unitarianism, I believe, United Church of Christ. But also in this building is the Blue Gargoyle services and youth services and all that type of stuff goes on. One year, I got in a little trouble and had to go to supervision and all that type of stuff. And they actually sent me to meet with a young therapist at the time by the name of Charlotte. I can't think of Charlotte's last name, but Charlotte was my counselor. And I used to come here. And so, in retrospect, across the street again is what we call WHPK 88.5, co-kicking it loud on your FM dial, and that's where all our music was played, and I advertised for our radio show, our party here. This location is recognized by us in Chicago hip hop as one of the original showcase venues for our generation of hip hop and our contingency. I used to throw parties at that other artists and people used to throw parties at later, and back in the late 80s, 89-ish, early 90s, I started throwing parties here consistently, and this is where Chicago artists was given a spot. We were competing for venues against people like Farley and Lil Lewis and all these other artists in our generation for spaces. And the Gargoyle was one of the spaces that allowed us to rent it out because we didn't have hip hoppers at the time. We weren't really drinkers at the point. So we wasn't going to bars and clubs. We were young still. And so we needed a place for ourselves. And there was a little gym in there, but when I was a kid, that gym looked so much bigger than what it is. But when we were kids, we thought that was the biggest gym that we could have ever been, the biggest stage that we could have been on. And so they allowed us to rent it out. We used piece books so kids wouldn't write on the walls. So we used the piece books so graffiti writers would be able to share their art and collab with. The DJs would come in, they would bring in their equipment. We would piecemeal equipment together and get a turntable from here, a speaker from here, needles from here, records from here. Like I said, Dr. Wax, Secondhand Tunes, WHPK. They would loan us records at some point. JP would loan us certain records, and and so the MCs would have a stage to actually perform on. Producers had beats to bring in to play their beats. The breakers and the flexers would be on the dance floor, and this is where we all started at. And like I said, I started off throwing parties here. When I got so good, I started saying, "Hey, Shot Rock, come on over here. I got a spot." And Shot Rock had their biggest fundraiser here, thanks to me letting them use my connect. Like, they never give me credit, didn't write me a check or nothing, didn't split the proceeds or nothing. And then when you see the video, it's gonna be like, "Man, we made a bunch of money." And I was like, nobody said, "Here, Kingdom." Nobody, but Shot Rock forever.
But you know what I was just thinking? We were young entrepreneurs. Like, this is a space that really can help us all to understand that we were young entrepreneurs at the time when we was operating out of here. This is another place that brought people from all sides of the town. West side, north side, east side, of course, and south side, and all right here, and when I say entrepreneurs is because, like Keegan said, this space wasn't a club, right? So there was nothing in there for us to throw a party. We had to bring it to make the party. So like he said, turntable here, speaker here, we brought all of that stuff together as a community and had the party. And then, so we had to bring it here, set it up. Then when the party's over, we had to break it down and take it back wherever we got it from. Because it was really just a space. And it was very dark. I remember we got footage of a party we had where it's like we trying to film and we can't barely see each other in there because we didn't have no sufficient light. But we had a good time right here.
So, this is the Reynolds Club building of the University of Chicago. Chicago Ivy League. What y'all might not know is that the first hip hop radio show in Chicago started in this building. WHPK 88.5, co-kicking it live, proud of the South Side. Started on this station, started in this building with Kevin Moxie. No, is that right? Patrick Moxie and Ken Worcestershire.
I forget how it's pronounced, but it's K.
K-Ill.
Yeah.
All right, so K-Ill had some records and he wanted to do a hip-hop hour. He started with the minimal records he had. The show, just like us, kept growing and growing, and to the point that he had a full radio show. The radio show would be housed here, and not only did it play played hip-hop, it played underground, unedited, unadulterated, uncensored hip-hop. And so the other plus was they opened the radio station to Chicago artists to play their own music on the radio station. Almost like Secondhand Tunes would allow us to put records in, and Dr. Wax would allow us to co-sign records. They would allow us to highlight local artists. This is a new era, but what y'all don't know, it used to be a payphone out here.
Yeah.
And you used to have to call on the payphone, let them know that you was downstairs, and they would come down the stairs and let you in. And so you have to get past these doors and that door, and then there's 2 doors upstairs that you have to get through to get to the radio station. And so that was the procedure.
I think too that what we're doing with the Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Museum is very much like what WHPK did for Chicago Hip Hop, because WHPK opened a platform for us to engage. When I heard on the radio, if you got a tape, you could bring it down. So we always making cassette tapes, whatever our resources were to record, and then we would bring it down here, and they would literally play our music. And at the time when most of us didn't have no record deal, right? So we like, man, our stuff is gonna be on the radio, okay? And hearing ourselves on the radio was like you couldn't tell us nothing at that time. So this was I think this was a great incubator, helping to bring together Chicago hip hop, much like what we're doing today.